Hello YouTube. I have in front of me here the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge, which you probably saw in my previous video where I kind of just rambled, and frankly that's sort of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to keep it short. I'll give you the usual disclaimer in case you're not familiar with how I operate. Even though I have a history of being the technical reviewer, the guy who goes through and does all the benchmarks and puts together all the graphs and does all the statistical analysis and all that stuff for the various websites I've written for and stuff like that. Today I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to keep this as down to earth and as digestible as possible. This is going to be more of like me condensing everything from my perspective as a professional reviewer of the past, someone who's used products, worked on products, thousands of computers per year that I repair, reviewed hundreds of them for various websites and places like that. I'm going to be going through today, and I'm going to be simply giving you my thoughts and what I think is good, what I think is bad, what I think should have been improved, and what I think is great and going forward might be what's revolutionary and what's not, that kind of thing. So let's dive right in. I'm going to start with the cons. Because it's really easier to start with the negative, frankly. The old devices. So first of all, if you're buying one of these things, you really should know they're not completely ready for prime time yet. I mean, when I say that, I mean it will not replace everything you're doing with your existing laptop, okay? A great example here is I talked in the first video about how I couldn't get my printer to install, my old Canon D1320. Yes, it's old, and I realize that, that's something that you should expect when you're buying one of these. But my newer one did install, the Canon MF750C. I believe I did use an IPP driver from Microsoft, sorry. Microsoft IPP class driver for that. So it's just a generic print driver like most newer printers. That one works fine, but keep in mind older printers probably aren't going to work. I mean, a lot of them just simply won't install. Again, I'm a tech. I know how to troubleshoot this stuff, and I just cannot make the old one work. So it is what it is. That's the first thing. The other thing is I mentioned some weirdness with some of the apps, like the Photos app didn't launch previously for me, which was really weird. Well, it turns out it just fixed itself, and I don't really know why. It may have been an update to the app. It might also have been something I did. I did uninstall the app and reboot. Sorry for this goofy looking thumbnail here from my webcam test. I don't know what happened, but at some point it just started working, which is really interesting. There haven't been any major Windows updates or patches since day one when I first started operating this, so it wasn't that. Probably was an app update, if anything. But there definitely are some other weird things. I mean, for instance, internet randomly drops out in some of the apps, like TeamViewer, for instance, was reporting no internet connection when I first installed it. I thought that was limited to TeamViewer, but it turns out that the phone link also is doing it, which is the Microsoft Phone Link app that links to your phone. It's available on all Windows 11 PCs, but on this one, for whatever reason, the internet was not detected. So what did I do to fix it? You can reboot. That will correct it, or you can go into Device Manager and actually open up network adapters and just disable this and re-enable the Qualcomm Fast Connect 7800 mobile connectivity system driver, which is the Wi-Fi adapter in this machine. There's probably going to be a driver update for this. I mean, obviously, everything's kind of touch and go at this point. This one's from May 16th, so it's not like it's old. There may be a new one coming out that does that fixes that problem, or maybe the network stack's got something going on with it in Windows for ARM. Who knows? I have no idea. I don't really know how that's implemented. But the bottom line is there are some weird little things, rough around the edges kind of things like that, which will drive you crazy if this is your daily driver, right? Like if this is something you're doing, if this is your primary machine, it's probably not going to be everything you expect it to be because of these little hang-ups like that. So just keep that in mind. You probably want a basic, functional x86 powered Windows machine as your primary daily driver. And this can be like maybe your on-the-go laptop or something like that. Something you would take with you on trips or in the car or, whatever else, because the battery is pretty good. And I'll come back to that in a second and talk a little more about that. But, the AI stuff I'll talk about as well. You can see that on the screen here. But the other thing, and this is something no one's mentioned yet, and this is a con I really want to talk about because I'm actually concerned about this and I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I've only had this for 5 days. Do you see the shine on the keys here? Can you see that? On the E, the S, the A, even the R and the T to a lesser extent. Look, guys, I'm not like super greasy or something like that. I don't have like crazy greasy hands. I don't know what that's all about, but the matte finish on these keys is wearing off alarmingly quickly. And this is the kind of thing that, I mean, apart from the fact that in my first impressions video, I opened the box up and took the thing out and it had a green line down the right side. That obviously concerns me about Samsung's quality control. It's why they can't compete with Apple, frankly, when it comes to that stuff still to date. You know, it drives me nuts because they have all the stuff they need. All the ingredients are here, but they simply can't do it. I mean, their phones and their tablets are good, and they generally do a pretty good job, although we had that weird screen thing with the S24 Ultra launch on the screens. I mean, don't get me started. It's I could go down a road on that stuff. But you know, the laptop stuff, the reason why I have never actually trusted their computers is because, you know, I mentioned in the previous video, the warranty coverage is you have to ship it in and then you get it back. Even if you extend the warranty to 2 years with Samsung Care Plus, with accidental damage, you still have to ship it in and wait for it to come back, and you have to trust them to repair it and to send you back a functional machine and not lose your data and all that stuff and not steal your data. I mean, God forbid. But having said all that stuff, it's these little things like this keyboard quality control. I mean, like the finish on the keyboard should be robust enough to where I can use it for 5 days and not have a shine on the keys. Anyway, I digress. I may return this thing because of that, if that tells you how much this sort of thing bothers me, only from a philosophical standpoint, because it worries me that maybe something else here is not what it should be. Now, having said that, let's get back to the positives, because that's most of it. It really is. This thing, as you've seen it in other videos and my previous video, it is simply gorgeous. I mean, there's no question about it. The design is beautiful. The aluminum edges are like chamfered CNC aluminum. They are beautiful. They are well done because they have this like soft edge to them. Like there's a careful chamfering here of these so they're not sharp. I'm looking at you, Dell, with your stupid XPS 13 Plus design and the other stuff you've been doing recently that's very form over function. I mean, actually, where is that thing? Got that right here. I mean, I've got it sitting right here. Look at this. Look at the edges on this computer, which look really good. I mean, this computer looks fantastic, but looks aren't everything. I mean, you have to have a functional machine also. Dell has really forgotten that with this stuff, and I really want to commend Samsung, because even though I'm concerned about stuff like that keyboard, this thing not only looks great, it operates great, and it really does feel good to use. I mean, it feels good. You have it sitting on your lap. It's not only is it featherweight, like it's 2.5 pounds, right? But also it just feels good on your legs. I mean, this curve here, you know, just makes it easily nestle. You can kind of set a leg here and set a leg here. And, you know, the inside gets warm a little bit, if at all. If anything gets warm, the middle of it gets warm, and that's it. This thing is just beautiful. So that's the first really positive thing I want to talk about. There's also, by the way, this is a little bit bigger in footprint terms also than like my 14-inch Dell Latitude 9430, which I actually like. I mean, yes, there's a little bit of a chin down here, and that looks kind of stupid maybe. Maybe this is a little bigger than it should be. Even these on the side probably could shrink. But frankly, I mean, the extra real estate is good for your hands. It feels good on the palms, and I don't have particularly giant hands. It just feels good. So anyway, enough said about that. Next thing is it is silent. It has 2 fans. I haven't opened it up yet. I decided I wasn't going to because I may take it back. We'll see. But the fan here and fan here, I know because it's very cool on the sides, and the inside, if anything, gets warm. This does, and it almost never does. But these fans, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, have not turned on once since I started using this laptop, as far as I can tell. If they have, they've been so low RPM and so quiet that I haven't heard them. That, guys, is really impressive, especially when you talk about how fast this thing is. And again, I'll come back to that too. But this thing not only is silent, it also is completely cool to the touch. I mean, this doesn't feel any warmer than really room temperature. This maybe gets slightly warmer, and the keyboard, again, you know, all the usable spots, the touchpad doesn't really warm up. I mean, all of it feels completely comfortable to use, which is incredibly impressive given the performance of this thing. I mean, it really is something that is more Mac-ish than anything, and I hate to use that term. I really do. I'm not like an Apple fanboy of any kind, and I often advise people against purchasing those for various reasons. But it really is the closest thing to a Windows Mac that I have ever seen. And yes, I'm not reviewing the Surface Book yet, and no, I haven't done the Yoga Slim 7X, although I've seen it out and about, and it is really nice, and those have their own advantages, but this thing is just so good. I mean, like, design-wise, it's beautiful. So I want to talk about that. Battery life-wise, it's a little more of a mixed bag, okay? So I'll come back to that a little more detailed in some other future reviews, probably as well, future videos, I mean. But I do want to talk a little bit about this, and you may have seen my power modes video. I went much more into detail in that video about this, but I'm actually operating now on best power efficiency. And the reason why is this thing feels super snappy. I don't know if you can tell just from me like launching, you know, apps and things, but this does not take long to do anything. It is as fast as my 12th gen Intel i5 laptop, which is, 15 watt TDP CPU. And it's very fast. I mean, this whole thing does not feel slow to me at all. And I have it on best power efficiency. The reason why is the battery life is probably 2 hours longer like this, I've noticed. And as you can see here, estimated time remaining is 10 hours and 51 minutes with 77%. Now, granted, I haven't been doing a lot with it, but really in real world use, it's 9 to 11 hours with mid to high brightness, probably medium high to high brightness. And that's impressive. And I say high, I mean like max brightness. Now, if I put this on balanced, then the battery life will go down to probably 7 to 9 hours under the same level of brightness. Look at that, 14 hours. That's unreal, right? That's crazy. Obviously, this isn't really accurate, but you don't see these kinds of numbers typically. I mean, they've existed, but usually not in a package like this. So I have this on best power efficiency. And by the way, when you plug back in, you get pretty much completely full performance. And again, this is not like the low-end Snapdragon Elite chipset option either. This is the X1E-80-100, which is one up from the bottom of the Elite tier, which is above the Plus tier. Now, there's nothing to be said negative about the Plus tier even. In fact, it looks like it works great. The Surface laptops and the Surface Pros that are powered by the Pluses actually perform very well as far as I've seen. And the one up from here is the X1E-84-100. You can only get that in the 16-inch version. I don't really know why you would care about that. I mean, yes, the 16-inch, don't get me wrong, like there's nothing wrong with getting the 16-inch version. I'm not telling you not to do that. But you can get either the 12-core X1E-80 or the 12-core X1E-84. I don't think you're going to notice a difference. I really don't. These things are lightning fast. They are super efficient. And there just doesn't seem to be a reason for someone to upgrade, in my personal opinion. So that's my first hot take on this stuff. I think it's a little silly to go up in processor speed. I really do. The turbo core, the dual core turbo of 4.0 gigahertz that this gives you under optimal conditions, and I think it probably makes it in most cases, is extremely fast. And this is only 4.2. So it's not like you're gaining a lot going to that. There is no turbo boost on the model below this, which is also still an X Elite, and it still just destroys the benchmarks. It still does really well. So what I'm saying is, if you're buying this thing, don't worry about CPU performance. It's just going to be like Core i7, Core i9 style stuff when it's plugged in. And even when it's unplugged, it's not going to feel any slower than anything from Intel did in the past year or two. I mean, it really isn't. Like if the i5s, i7, 15 watt TDP CPUs are easily, and those numbers are easily achievable if you've seen the benchmarks, even unplugged, even in best power efficiency mode, really. So when you go balanced, you're going to exceed all of it. So, which again, at the expense of power consumption and battery life. But so I just wanted to get a little bit further into that and explain to everybody that I really don't think you need to get out of the best power efficiency mode if you're doing stuff like I am. And I'm a pretty heavy user too, don't get me wrong. So anyway, that's the most impressive thing about this, by the way. Yes, it's not Samsung's thing. It's the SoC from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon X Elite, but this really is potentially a game changer. I mean, going forward, this stuff could be the future. If Intel doesn't get their affairs in order with the new Core Ultra CPUs, and they don't prove to be at least comparably power efficient to these, I mean, the 4 nanometer chipset lithography here is so much better than Intel's previous 10 nanometer. It's really unbelievable. It's night and day. You can't even compare the two. So now that's CPU power. GPU is different. The GPU power, I should probably segue into that really quickly. And it's not really a pro, obviously. It's fine. It's a little bit unstable. People have reported problems with DaVinci Resolve and other programs like that. I do not recommend gaming on this thing. It is not a gaming laptop, and you should not be playing games on it. Sorry for any notifications, by the way. I'm actually doing this during a work day here, so if you see anything pop up on my screen. Anyway, this is not a gaming laptop. It's never going to be, and it shouldn't be. If you're buying it for gaming, you're doing the wrong thing. Just like if you're buying it as your everyday daily driver with no other laptop for backup, I believe that's a mistake as well. So let's talk about this display. It's beautiful. I do think it's probably among the most beautiful displays I've seen. I've seen a lot of laptops and a lot of displays. This is an AMOLED display from Samsung, and it only makes sense. It serves them right because Samsung is one of the world's leaders in display technology. This thing is incredible. I mean, the color is beautiful. Obviously, it's infinite contrast because it's an AMOLED. Am I worried about burn-in? Probably not. Samsung usually does a pretty good job with that stuff on their displays. Power consumption is not that bad. Even with relatively bright settings, this thing is giving me good battery run times. I mean, again, from a practical standpoint, I don't really need more battery than I'm getting here, and that's what makes me really happy. And by the way, I have this on smart charging also, so it never charges above 80% because I really don't need it to. I feel like I've got enough with just the 80%. All this is all to say it's very positive, right? This is all great stuff and potentially game-changing in a lot of ways. So by the way, the reflectivity on this screen. So the screen is not only good, but the main reason I bought this, and really one of the only reasons I bought this instead of like the Microsoft Surface Book or the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X, which really was my first top choice, is the reflectivity on the display is much lower. They have coated it with an anti-glare coating that's really, or anti-reflective coating, I should say, not anti-glare. It's definitely glossy, but it's more akin to what you see on like Samsung's QLED displays, like QLED TVs, where like it diffuses the reflections and they split into like a prismatic, like, you know, array of colors, so to speak. And that makes it really easy to view outdoors. In fact, I'm going to cut in really quickly with a video I recorded in the shade and in the sun so you can just see how this looks outdoors, because that was important to me. As you can see here, there's actually really no problem seeing this outdoors at all. You know, I'm recording this on my phone and I'm sitting outside on a rather cloudy day, but still, I mean, it's, you know, I'm outdoors and this is normally something that a glossy screen would struggle with. And as you can see, there's not really a lot of trouble here with reflectivity. So it's obvious that whatever coating they've put on this thing has actually made a pretty substantial difference, and I gotta say I'm impressed with this. This was one of the primary reasons why I chose this machine over, say, for instance, the Yoga. All right, and now the sun is out, so I figured I'd come back out here and show you how things are looking. Still not bad at all. I mean, the reflectivity of this screen is definitely lower than your average glossy screen. Let's head over here and see what it looks like actually in the sun. So obviously, if you're directly in the middle of a bright light with it shining directly on the screen, that's a problem. Otherwise, you can angle it, and this is really not, I mean, it's not as bad as it looks on this video, which is typically the case with glare. I've noticed that. I mean, look at this, though. This is not that bad. So, yeah, this thing is definitely usable outdoors. You know, even in spite of the fact that it's only got it's quote-unquote only got a 400 nit brightness screen. Okay, so anyway, really enjoy the screen. That's I could talk about that all day, but this might be the most beautiful display I've seen on a laptop. That's saying a lot. So yeah, Samsung, you know, and by the way, it is 120 hertz. I should talk about that too. It's a variable refresh rate, 48 to 120. That means that it can go as low as 48 and as high as 120. It basically looks butter smooth all the time, but you also recoup all of the benefits of a low refresh rate, which is lower battery consumption. So that's all really nice from a power consumption standpoint, but also, you know, visibility wise, it looks fantastic. The touchpad is also really good. It is not a haptic touchpad. I said the word capacitive way too many times in my first video, and again, it was a single take. This one's kind of single take. I'm having to cut out calls from clients left and right, as you can probably tell. But this touchpad is mechanical. It does have a mechanical click to it, which I very much appreciate. Listen to this. It is fancy and nice and really nothing crazy, but I mean, like, it just works very well. It is, it's conventional, and I like that a lot. I really appreciate a mechanical click. So, summing up here, all this is to say that if you've got 1,300 something bucks to drop on a computer and you want premium design and you don't mind maybe a little bit of wear and tear on the keyboard that shouldn't exist, you know, some shinier keys, so to speak. It doesn't look like it's wearing off, by the way. It just looks like the matte coating is wearing off. That's my biggest pet peeve. That's really my biggest criticism, apart from the compatibility issues, which really isn't Samsung's fault, and it's nothing they can really fix. That's got to happen over time. Probably the adoption of the ARM platform on Windows is really going to make a difference. I think this is going to probably be the first time we see some major adoption of these devices. There's a lot of them that have launched together. Many of them are premium devices, like the Microsoft Surface Book has a lot of money and a lot of investment behind it. This one may or may not be as popular, but it sure is well built. Otherwise, other than this keyboard situation we talked about, the screen really is a showstopper. It's something that I think is great if you're working outdoors or in bright environments, but you still want all the benefits of a deep contrast, deep color, glossy screen finish with a touch screen. That's nice to have in some cases. So, you know, there's not a lot to criticize here apart from those things I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Everything else really does feel premium. The battery life, you know, while it's not a game changer, is absolutely sufficient. No one's going to complain about it, I think, if they have this thing set on best power efficiency mode, and no one's going to complain about the speed in best power efficiency mode, because it really is adequate for pretty much all applications. You know, like balanced obviously gives you full performance anyway, pretty much. So if you ever need to switch, you can just hop into here and switch. You don't really ever have to screw with the Samsung settings or anything like that. So again, I'm very impressed with this overall. I think the design, you know, while it's got some problems, is overall beautiful. The metal is gorgeous looking. It's very understated and sophisticated looking, and it's extremely lightweight. And I think this AI PC stuff, while it's a little overblown, the Snapdragon X Elite chipset certainly isn't. And the efficiency of the 4 nanometer lithography is just something to behold. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you'll be surprised by how quiet, how cool, and how fast these computers are. So hope you found something in this review that you didn't find someplace else. I hope you found it insightful in some way. And if you enjoy it, or if you have any questions, please comment down below. Let me know if you need any answers to anything. I'll probably try to read through them all and comment like I usually do. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks again for watching.